Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I am Tracy Cram Perkins, and our show today is Dementia Home Care. I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV and Radio. I am a 4-time dementia caregiving survivor and the author of Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Joining me today is our guest, Dr. George Ackerman. George works in the field of law, police, and education. George lost his mother, Sharon Riff Ackerman, on January 1st, 2020, due to Parkinson's disease. George wanted to honor his mother and continue to help in the Parkinson's awareness cause and did not know how to bring change. With his family, he started Together for Sharon to keep his mother, Sharon Riff Ackerman's memory alive and to share the message of Parkinson's awareness and hope for a cure. Today, togetherforsharon.com reaches thousands of individuals across the country for Parkinson's disease awareness. George currently interviews individuals throughout the Parkinson's community, including various foundations, caregivers, Parkinson's warriors, to help share the stories and their causes. Welcome, George.
Thank you for your time and your viewers. It really means the world to me and my family.
Well, for those of my audience that don't know you, would you please tell us how your journey with Parkinson's started?
Of course. My prior career was actually had a passion for helping victims of crime. Just wasn't sure how to do it. So I became an attorney, then a police officer, and then my PhD was actually in the area of helping African-American mothers who lost their loved one due to crime in Florida. So I kind of shifted to taking care of victims of crime to the world of caregiving, which you don't prepare for. I never could have even taken a course. I was thrown into it. Unfortunately, my mother had Parkinson's disease for about 15 years, but never really told anyone about it. She kind of kept it secret. I'm not sure if she did it a lot because she didn't want to burden everyone in the family. She was very independent. and that's just her nature. So the last 4 years, unfortunately, of her life is when I was thrown into the world of caregiving. The last 2 years of her life, she actually had late onset dementia, which even further complicated it. But that's how I was basically brought into the world of caregiving. I never even heard of, honestly, dementia or Parkinson's disease before that. But again, that's why I'm here, to hopefully keep her memory alive.
So, how would you describe Parkinson's disease?
Parkinson's, unfortunately, is one of the leading and fastest growing neurodegenerative diseases throughout the world, so not just in the US. It really started with a little bit of a stiffness in her left arm, so she had trouble eating. She could eat through the mouth, but not cut food. Then after that, gradually it started to decline. Her health showed signs of not as vast external tremors, like if you see Mr. Michael J. Fox, but she had internal. She also had curling of the toes, dyskinesia, and dystonia. So unfortunately, Parkinson's brings several different areas, but the even more difficult part, which is why there's no cure, is that it's just so different for each individual. There's no person really with Parkinson's that is 100% alike. And then when you added the dementia, which probably really frightened me the most in a way, with the delusions and hallucinations, it was just very, very difficult to combat.
Oh, that sounds like it was very difficult for you. So, what symptoms of Parkinson's was she showing when you first started realizing you needed to help her? And when was she diagnosed officially?
Yeah, I believe it was 15 years from 2020. So you have to do the math. I'm not a mathematician. But unfortunately, again, she was able to still live alone, still shop, still see her friends, and drive a car. It wasn't until the fourth year before she passed. She passed on 1/1/2020. She was a young age and 69, which to me, Parkinson's still 15 years of her life, and then really 10 to who knows how long after. So it's just a terrible disease, but it affected how she was able to even function in life. Her speaking kind of started to get more whispering. She had her diet. She had a good diet, but the last year of her life, she went from very healthy to gradually declining in health, which was also very frightening. So as you can see, there's just very, very, very different delineations or signs, but really, again, the first one I ever saw was the trouble with the left arm stiffness, and it wasn't really a cause or for alarm until the fourth year before she passed, when she actually went to do a study, because we tried everything. We tried 10 to 15 doctors. We just didn't want to give up because we wanted a cure. Unfortunately, even today, we're sitting here on 3/19/2024, there's still no cure. But she went for a special program, and I'm not sure if they drastically changed her medicines, but that was the night she came home, and I was called to her house at 4 a.m., and I found her moving her furniture out of her home in fear that Nazis might be inside. And that's where I think the dementia really took over. And that wasn't even that was scary, but the frightening part came when I brought her to the hospital and they said we saved her life. But I went back to her home to pick up some clothes, and surrounding our home, which we use Post-it notes to write reminders, she actually had them surrounding her room, almost like a horror movie. And on each note said animals and people, like family members' names, who were no longer alive. And it was really, that's when it just dropped my stomach. And I really didn't know what to do, how to handle it. But that's the night my journey began as her caregiver.
So, okay, you obviously didn't do this by yourself. You said you had other family members. How did you and your family come together to help your mom?
Yeah, I had a great support from my wife. Unfortunately, I really was the only one taking care of her. She was a single mother. She lived alone, divorced. There really wasn't anyone else. I have a brother, but he wasn't able to care for her like I was. My father and my mother were divorced. He was in another state, so he couldn't really physically help. So I had to really take a lot of the brunt and the caregiving on myself. What I did do was hire staff, which was very expensive. We spent about $12,000 a month the last few years of her life because we swore to her that we wouldn't put her in a home. And I just wanted to keep her at home so I can kind of keep an eye on her and make sure that, she was comfortable. So that was my major focus, is that even though through the pain and the fight, she was still able to be a little bit comfortable and know that she's being taken care of, not just by strangers, but also by me and her family. She loved to see her grandkids. She has 3 grandkids. My favorite time was Sundays when they would all sit in the backyard and blow bubbles. And even today, when I walk by the backyard and don't see that, I think of Parkinson's, dementia, and how so many others are affected today.
So, okay, in her day-to-day care, what sort of things were you doing for her?
And my goal was to make her comfortable, so we would have to make sure, number one, my major really area was that she didn't fall. Because if she fell, I knew that that would just kind of be a big, big obstacle. But it was really making sure people gave her medications, the correct ones at the right time, make sure she kind of had somewhat, she couldn't leave the house toward the end a lot. So my wife was incredible. She would bring in people like pedicurists and manicure and hairstylists. Some days my mother was too sick, but it was very important to kind of keep her at least feeling good, even if it was just for a few moments. The last year of her life, we had to go in Florida. We were lucky enough to qualify for end of life, but it was for a year. And the problem with that is they don't believe in physical therapy, which was a big problem because the only thing a person has is hope. So when you take away physical therapy, they really lose hope. So that was really very complicated. I also ended up becoming her power of attorney, she was amazing in that way of planning. Most of us don't want to discuss these topics, but you have to have, your will ready. You have to have funeral thing. And the big problem, again, to go back, is that we were told by several doctors, even today, you don't die from Parkinson's, you die with it. But my mother had no other medical history of any issues. So I don't know if it was the complications of medicines or what, but that last year we bought her a brand new house located right near mine. And we were just for convenience, so I can get over there anytime she needed me. And she really never got to enjoy it because that was the last year her health declined rapidly.
So, was she actually living with you at any time or just independently?
She didn't want to because I had 3 children. They were very young and screaming all day and night. So she loved them all, but she needed her own space. But we actually had a plan the last year. We were going to sell it, move her in with us, and I'm sitting in the house that we're all going to live together. But unfortunately, she didn't make it. So when I walk by that room, it's kind of disheartening, thinking that she could have been here if it wasn't for these terrible diseases.
I am so sorry. So, what are you doing now to raise awareness for Parkinson's?
No, I appreciate that question. Actually, my book is coming out. I love your book and your topic because I do think I'm looking forward to still talking it beyond this because I don't believe this talk today is just about an hour and goodbye. This is a conversation that's very important to continue on. Also, again, I want to thank you and your station and all your viewers for giving me the opportunity today because if we even reach one person to make them aware of Parkinson's, then we've changed the world. I started www.togetherforsharon, it's all spelled out, .com, in memory of my mother. So I thought maybe 50 people would see it. We started it on right after she passed on 1/1/2020. There's a little spot where there's a counter, and I just happened to look the other day, and we've had over 30,000 people visit. It's really meant the world to me. My goal now is the focus has shifted. My book that's coming out is in memory of my mother. It's my journey and hers, but from my journey from caregiver to advocate, which is where I'm at today. I'm actually going to be at the Michael J. Fox Foundation event this Saturday. Next month is a big month for Parkinson's. I believe it's Parkinson's Awareness Month every day because until there's a cure, it doesn't stop. I don't stop. I always say Parkinson's disease doesn't take a break, so why should I? But next month, according to the world, it's Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month. So actually, I'll be walking with several organizations. I'll be out there. I don't do a lot of live things just because I have my own issues with medical things and also work. So I'm just excited for this month coming, and my book should be out in April. And, I'm looking forward to that. I usually come on shows and say I don't want anything, which is true. The only thing I want is a cure for Parkinson's. I've become really like family and made so many friends throughout the community who's opened their arms. But I'm actually excited to announce, too, I'm actually starting my second book before the first one's even out. And it's not because I wanted to write. I just felt that there's a very important field out there. I don't have Parkinson's. And I'm no longer a person with a loved one caregiving with Parkinson's. But there are so many people, millions like me, who really I feel are forgotten. There's a lot of things out there, support groups for people who have Parkinson's and people caregiving for Parkinson's, but nothing for someone like me who lost a loved one due to Parkinson's, and that book is going to be dedicated to them. And really the trials and tribulations of the world of social media. I use social media, thankfully, for reaching out, but you always get 1% who's kind of crazy. I'm sure you might have even noticed that, but I've had the honor that last year in 2023, togetherforsharon.com was out there. But I decided it's not just about me and my mother anymore. And with the book coming out, it was really focused about everybody. We're all family in this fight. When I wake up and some nights I don't sleep, seeing friends now that have Parkinson's and that they have to quit their jobs and careers, it really kind of rips my heart apart again. And I never want to see that. So I was really honored to interview about 600 people around the world, from the UK to Africa to Canada to England to Iceland even. And I was shocked to find out they had Parkinson's around the world. There's about 10 million people around the world and 1 million in the US. And it's unfortunately growing very fast. We might not have it, but neighbors are getting it, cousins, truck drivers, mailmen, and it has to stop. It has to end. So that's what a lot of I do today. And again, I feel that I become like family with individuals like you because we're all really a family in this fight.
Well, George, the one thing you didn't mention is the name of your book. What is the name of your book that's coming out?
Funny, because it's all kind of like secretive. I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
No, but actually, since we're here and we're live, I'll show you. This is actually the cover. It's just, I don't know if you can see it, but this is going to be the cover of the book. It's pretty small for you. I actually can see now. So that's the cover. We're still kind of working on the back cover, as you know. Though. It's not easy, but this has taken a lot of effort. It's actually been 4 years in the making. And what I did is it goes through important chapters on advocacy, caregiving. It also, and it's not going to be an easy read. Some people might not want to, but it's going to take you into the good, the bad, and the ugly of Parkinson and also dementia. It's also going to cover, unfortunately, the last year of my mother's life, which was really excruciating for me. And what I did is I kept a journal that year, in 1999, the whole year, just wrote a few notes, and they're weaved throughout the book, and it's going to tell you how I felt that moment. So whether I was sad, angry, grief, frustrating, wanted to give up and quit, but I just had to keep fighting on because I do feel my mother sacrificed a lot in her life so that I could be the man I am today, and I wouldn't be where I'm at as successful if it wasn't for her. And I swore that when she needed me that I'd be right by her side. And at least I was able to do that, but I do still grieve every day. And being here with you today actually helps me a lot. So I'm going to keep thanking you because, again, it means the world to me.
Oh, George, thank you. And grief never goes away. We just learned how to live with it. That's the sad part about grief. But what I want to know is you've got Together for Sharon, and now you said you've got 30,000 people that have looked at it. What has been some of your favorite feedback that you've received that you've helped people?
That's a great question. One individual was kind of funny. They wrote me out of nowhere and said, I was on your website reading interviews for 10 hours. So I wrote back, thank you, but I don't want you to spend all day there. But the nice thing is every morning I wake up, and if you went to togetherforsharon.com, even right now, there's a new journey that'll pop up. And every day that I see another journey of another individual fighting this disease, that's really what keeps me, going and motivated to keep fighting. So today, even here, if you look Together for Sharon, this is an individual who's her name's Dominique, and she has an organization called Yoga for Parkinson. So there's really credible people around the world that we just aren't aware of, unfortunately, still fighting for a cure. And those are the things that really still motivate me and help me to not want to ever stop this fight until we have a cure.
Wow. That has to make you feel good, though. I mean, just to know that you're actually helping people.
Yeah, there's always positives. There's also, like I said in my next book, some negatives because it's actually shocking, but we don't have the time. But I actually started out the day my mother passed trying to find resources for myself, and I just couldn't. They're all scattered. Maybe they weren't out there, so I put them all together for Sharon completely free. We don't accept donations. We don't want money. We just want a cure. You can donate to other organizations in memory of my mother on our site, but those are actually the organizations like American Parkinson Disease Association. They're their website. They just have my mother's photo, which is nice because I get to stay out of all that. But even starting out, when I first started, I have a horror story that I'm writing about, and I put a post up just saying I'm looking for support. And I actually had someone think that I'm not real. My mother didn't pass away, and there's really a dark side, unfortunately, of social media, and that's something I really want to bring out. But what I do want to show is there's always positive in the darkness and the light. And that was that person and those wacky people didn't deter me. You have to keep fighting no matter what, because you're going to meet 99.9% of incredible people. And then, the one or minor one that is not can't stop you. And like I always say, until we find a cure, nothing will ever stop me. And unfortunately, sometimes I'm even sacrificing my own health and family time, but that means, like you said, the world to me, that others don't have to go through what my mother or my family has.
That is so incredible. Now, my next question for you is, what are some of your favorite memories when you were caring for your mom, the things that kept you going?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite memories is actually the photo used for the book that's coming out in April, and it's my mother and I when we had our dance at my wedding. One of my favorite memories ever, because we were all just so happy. We in that moment, you forgot the world, and we were just joking and laughing together. Thankfully, we have it on video, and I always watch it to remember that time. Before the last year was the toughest. I can't. It's hard because sometimes the bad memories kind of make the good ones fade. So I try hard not to allow that. But some of the better moments again were when my mother was with her grandkids, three of them. She was always much happier then. We love music, so I had a rare opportunity to play. I've been playing guitar for 25 years because of my mother. Because one day there was a snowstorm in New York when I was a child. I was bored. She said, "Why don't I get you lessons?" So I learned how to play it because of her. And as a child, she always used to bring me to Broadway. We're from New York, and we used to see all the shows. I love Broadway, and one of her favorite songs was "Memories" from Cats, the Broadway show. And we went to see that as a child. And unfortunately, my mother got very sick, but we tried music therapy. So the last week before she passed, I had the honor to play the song "Memory" on guitar with the music therapist. And it was the last time my mother ever said a word, and she couldn't talk at the moment at that time because she was very sick. But she leaned up and said, "Thank you, I loved it." And we actually caught the whole thing on video. She's not in the video, obviously, but it's all, if you go to Together for Sharon and scroll to the bottom, it's getting too much on my website, but if you find it, it's on the bottom, and you'll hear us playing Memory for her. And that's one memory for me that I'll never forget. And even though she was struggling, at least for that moment, she was able to enjoy one last time one of her favorite memories and songs together.
Oh, that's so wonderful. So when you were caring for her, so you were already talking about light and dark here. What was something that happened when you were caring for your mom that you didn't think you could get through, but you made it through to the other side?
I think the worst part was not when she asked me what's going to happen, like what's the future? Because again, the doctor said you don't die from Parkinson's, you die with it. My mother was to me, young is 69. That's very young. I mean, maybe 85 is like a normal, like, at least for me, I hope, but age span, but 69 was not enough time. We had a lot more to do, holidays and things, and the kids growing up, birthdays. And then the main thing is really not being able, like I always make a list. I'm one of those planners. You make a list, you try hard to keep planning, and you knock off each thing on your list to make sure you've accomplished them. Well, one list was to have a cure, and that was one thing. I still feel in a way we failed, but I'm not alone. There's millions of people also who unfortunately weren't still here when we do finally find a cure. But really, the number one response to that is not being able to answer my mother when she said, "What's going to happen?"
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, oh, excuse me. How did you end up deciding not to take money to keep your website going, but to support other organizations?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, unfortunately, goal is to kind of make money, which is nothing bad about it. Maybe with the book I will, I don't know. I mean, I spent a lot on editing and editors, so honestly, I don't think I'll ever make it back. But I think that there's certain people and stories and journeys like my mother's that need to be out there. And we've donated over $17,000 of our own family money to different organizations like the Parkinson's Foundation, the Michael J. Fox Foundation, Drive Toward a Cure, and Power Over Parkinson, just so that people understand and are aware that they're out there fighting, trying to raise awareness. But I just decided we used to have their bands it says in memory of Sharon for Parkinson's awareness, and we pass these out completely free. When my mother passed, a quick story, I like to give some. We didn't expect to have a funeral. At 60, we didn't know that was going to be the outcome. So we decided, why don't we make some bands for 10 people that might show up at the funeral just to remember my mother. And I was shocked that over like 60 people showed, and we gave them, and that was the end of it. I thought that was it. Oh, now my brother-in-law, he sent a picture, and it was just his like arm with the band, but not his face, like kind of private, which all of a sudden, for some reason, it just sparked in my mind. Why don't I start wearing it and take my face? Because people like privacy. They don't want to be on the internet sometimes, but they don't mind if their arm is. So we would start going around everywhere, from Disney World to down the block on the beach, and just showing pictures of the band in memory of my mother for awareness. And I don't know what happened, but it went viral, and people were asking for them. We sent them all completely for free, and even celebrities were wearing them. I don't know if you know Willie Geist from Good Morning America, I believe. One of the his wife was running with it on, and it just kind of went out of control. It was amazing. So that kind of inspired me to just keep fighting for free, volunteer, and I think it means more in a way. That'll answer your question. I had to stop doing that. We do hand them out when we're at live events, but I had to stop because it was costing like thousands and thousands, because people at like UK and things wanted, and I felt bad because that was even more postage. I couldn't figure out a lot of the technicalities, but I knew it was like a stepping stone from that to the website to the interviews. We're going to be releasing 4 books very soon of all the interviews I've done. So that's going to be important, because then those journeys will all be out there. So that's really why I wanted to do it for free, and I probably would never change that. But it's a lot of sacrifice with time, money, and even these books, like it's not easy it's not like you could just come up with the idea, right? It takes years.
So let's change the tone for a little bit. You also are keeping track of what the national plan is for Parkinson's disease. Can you elaborate on that for a little bit?
I appreciate you bringing that up. That's actually history. Unfortunately, in the United States, we've had nothing. It's sad. I mean, they have for obviously other diseases, which I'm glad they have, but for some reason, I don't know if the word neglect or awareness or lack of, we've never had any laws or through the government in the United States in history. And thankfully, December of 2023, the House of Representatives unanimously, with incredible support, passed the National Plan to End Parkinson's Disease, and that was spearheaded by the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Now it's going to go to the Senate. So if you're in the U.S., please reach out to your senators. You can literally write to them, call them, do both. Today's even election day in the U.S., so voting today, but once it hits the Senate, we need everybody to approve it. If they approve it, then it goes to the president, and it'll be in law. The national plan is going to change the world for those who are diagnosed, hopefully fund some of their medications, which is very important. It'll also help awareness. It'll help reach areas that aren't getting attention. It'll also help caregivers, and I hope someday help those like me also grieve who lost a loved one due to Parkinson. But it's going to really be part of history. And this is the first time since we're alive that you can actually play a role. In the future, years from now, I'll probably do a podcast, but we might not be able to say that. And it's just an incredible opportunity that I've been able to even speak on behalf of the whole entire plan and had a say in it. And I'm just waiting, hopefully this year or next, for it to become law.
You had mentioned medications. So are there new medications coming out? Are there effective medications now for Parkinson's? What do you know about that?
My biggest concern with medications is not even, not even just getting the medication, but you have to make sure the person is taking it or the caregiver at the right amount, the right time. I honestly don't even know if that was done properly. With my mother, we had people giving it. They kept journals, but even today, I'm kind of second guessing if they did it right. Carba and levodopa are one of the most famous ones. It's more for movement, to control, movement. Unfortunately, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a PhD in criminal justice. So I always say, see your local movement specialist, neurology. So that's definitely the number one step, but they are obviously trying to innovate and bring more change. Unfortunately, there's no pill to have a cure yet. A lot of Parkinson's, they don't even have the right, they don't have a test. So if you go to a doctor, they'll do blood work, they'll do tests for other illnesses and diseases, but So and then they'll rule out those and then say you have Parkinson's. So we have a lot of problems still with misdiagnosis, people not getting diagnosed early enough, and also people with Parkinsonians, which are similar types of outcomes, but not Parkinson's. So it's very, not dangerous, but very touchy world that I don't want to touch on. And I'm not, again, the best with the medicines I was able to, give them. I actually didn't do a lot of that. We had nurses come in the last year who took care of it. I didn't want to, get involved because I didn't want to do the wrong thing. But one other area that you had mentioned earlier, what we're trying to do too, and it's hard, but if you see this as we just created this. I don't know if you can see, but I don't even know. It's basically just a mug, and it has my mother's photo, and I didn't make these, and it says Together for Sharon, and they're on our website, but there's a gentleman who I've become very friendly with. He makes t-shirts and mugs, and he has Parkinson's. He lost his career because he was a truck driver, and he loved it, and now he's very big on social media. His name's Stephen Williams, Parkin shirts. So what I'm trying to do, and it's going to take years to think about, is find a place on my website where I can help other people who have Parkinson's gain some help, like money for their medicines, because this is extremely sad to me that right now the government in the U.S. doesn't pay for medicines a lot of the time for Parkinson patients, and they can't afford it. So if they don't get their medicine, then they can't, live. So I'm really looking into that, and that's one way we can support. And none of it goes to me; it goes directly to his website. I have nothing to do with it. I just want it. I love it. I mean, I have it here and I use it, but if I could think of, unfortunately, a lot of people don't have their own website, so that's been an issue. But if you are out there listening and you have Parkinson's and you need help, raising money to gain for medications, reach out to me and I'd be happy to add you. But that's something I'm really like a goal I'm trying to figure out. But like I said, if you don't have a website, I can't just send money. I do everything legal by taxes and the government, so it has to be, all official. Or I'm also a lawyer, thankfully, so you have to follow the law.
So are you actually doing fundraisers then, or you're just supporting other people's fundraisers?
Yeah, we thought of, even in the next book, I'm going to have a chapter on turning Together for Sharon into a foundation, but I didn't really want to, because there are so many out there, and then you get into the money and collecting. And one thing I did want to do is try to raise money to give scholarships to those who want to go into medical school to study and find a cure, but I don't know if I'll do it, because I kind of like just being me and a website, and that's it. There's no pressure. And, I know a few people who actually had to shut down foundation. You also have to pay a lot of money every year to Florida and the government. So for now, I like to help support other foundations. Again, we're at a lot of events. Next month, I'll be at a walk for the Parkinson's Foundation. We have a table, and I talk about my mother. Saturday morning, I'll be at the Michael J. Fox event. Next month, for Parkinson's awareness, I'll be at a symposium for the American Parkinson's Disease Association. And then last month, I went to something called the Boca Ballet, but it was a beautiful event where little children are in a ballet with people who have Parkinson's, and it was really beautiful. And then we're flying to New York for something called the Unity Walk, where everyone around the world is welcome. We joined together in Central Park, New York City, April 29th, and we're just going to walk in memory of my mother. So there's a lot of events. That's, I think, mainly because it's April. There haven't been really much, unfortunately, live. But I do like the fact that you can go virtual and still, have your life and still do other things. So we don't have our own events. I could do it, but for now, I'd rather still stick to helping other people.
So what are you hoping to achieve with what you're doing?
Well, number one is always remembering my mother. So I want her to be remembered, because I still think she was robbed of a lot of her life. And if we can just, in my head, it sounds odd and probably need more of the grief, but at least when it becomes, if she would have been 85, maybe I can kind of settle down. But I just don't think it was fair, what happened to her, and I never will. My goal is that other people, again, don't have to go through this. And until I still see that, I'm going to keep fighting. And then the other goal is now the new one. So I'm shifting, not away, but I'm kind of still thinking of those diagnosed and their caregivers. But I see as a researcher and PhD, you always want to look for either, what exists that needs more, or is there a gap? They say in the literature, and in my opinion right now, there's a gap missing for people like me who are loved ones but lost their loved one due to Parkinson's. A lot of people don't want to talk about that because, someone told me there's a beginning, a middle, and end of life. Nobody wants to talk about the end. Well, I lost my mother, and I still have a voice, and I will fight to have her voice continue on. And I've actually had opposition to that, which is really sad. Even big organizations, they don't really have anything. I don't know if it's because they don't want to mix us all, because those individuals, which I understand, don't want to hear about that. But you have to, because if you don't talk about tough things, then you're going to face it on your own. That's why I think the first book I wrote is going to be really important out there. But the second one might be a little controversial, but it's going to be from my heart and honest. And I just think it's not to blame people or be mad. I just think there needs to be a segment of the population for resources for people like me who are still grieving. And if it wasn't for Parkinson's, it wouldn't be. And also, it's not fair to blame, in a way, my mother for missing a cure. It wasn't her fault. And all the there's millions of people, even more, unfortunately, that lost a loved one. And they're really, in my opinion, forgotten right now. And some organizations may say they have something, but something happened recently. And again, I don't want to take all of your time, but I got an email and I'm so excited. It was to sign up for a special, let's just say, group. I don't want to give any information. I keep everything confidential because I do love everyone, appreciate what everyone does. But so it said, fill out this application. You might be able to join this group. And it said to help advocate. And I was really excited because I love to help as much as I can, even though I have no more time left. And so it said you have to do a 3-page essay, which is not easy. So I really poured my heart into this. It took a few hours, did it. So I was ready to submit it, press a button, and all of a sudden I was shocked. There were 2 buttons that popped up. Number 1, and you have Parkinson's. Number 2, you're a person caregiving for someone alive with Parkinson's. I'm like, wait a minute, I can't apply. And I was so, I kind of felt re-victimized in a way that I just lost my mother again, and that my voice really doesn't count. And what's odd is I didn't really care if I got into this thing. I just wanted to apply. Like, if they didn't accept me, I would have been fine with it. I just wanted them to know someone's out there. But not to even have the ability to apply was really heartbreaking. And that night after that, I was able to knock out like 50 to 100 page on my next book. I wasn't going to write a second book on this. I was going to concentrate. I want to do a children's book about Parkinson's, and also a big one to me is the world of policing. They don't have awareness, and I want to bring that. So I'm going to do a book on policing and Parkinson's in the future, because that, I think, can change. We might even see a bill across the United States for that one day. So anyway, that was what sparked my interest. And like I say to the viewers, if you have something like a passion in your heart, go for it. Don't let anyone ever, stop you. And you need to have it out there, because you never know how much you can change the world for the better.
Oh, that's wonderful. So we have about 3 minutes left. Is there anything else you'd like the audience to know before we wrap up today?
No, I really appreciate your time and their time. I feel like we all become family. I do have a little statement I always say, and just something I say at my podcast too, but we love you, we support you, we care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I will advocate with you, and together our voices are so much stronger. And I always say, not in a funny way, but I'm just getting started, even though I've been doing this for some time. But I do feel every morning I wake up, see that other inspiring story, that I re-energize and ready to go fight again. And the last thing is, the only journey that breaks my heart is the one that I'm not aware of. And there's just so many people still out there, even though I've reached 600. If we have 1 million people in the U.S., 10 million around the world, there's just a lot more work to be done. So I really want to thank you and your audience. And I still look forward to learning also about you, because dementia is a very important topic as well. And really just grateful for the time today. So thank you all.
Well, George, thank you so much for being on my show today. I really appreciate it. And if there's any last minute thing, we have about less than a minute left. If there's anything else you'd like to get in before we wrap up?
Just visit togetherforsharon.com. We don't make any money on it. We don't really want anything back except your support for others who are fighting this battle. And again, it's just a free resource out there you can share. No catch. They always say there's a catch, but there's no catch. And again, we just send our love and thank you.
Well, George, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you to our audience for spending time with us. We will be back on April 16th, and our guest will be Sheila Warnock. She is the co-author of Share the Care, How to Organize Group Care to care for someone who is seriously ill. Sheila also runs sharethecare.org. In the meantime, you can go over to our YouTube channel at USA Global TV and Radio and look for the Dementia Home Care playlist, where you will find all the past episodes. Thank you to our wonderful Dr. Jacqueline and to Heather today for all of their hard work behind the scenes. And thank you to our sponsors for making this possible. See you next time.